Baseball. Two of my favorites. It's Steve, Justin Perri, and it's John Bollman. This time I think it's okay.
Yo, Mike, how you doing? John, excited to have you on Market Movers. Yeah, how you doing, dude?
Yeah, great. Glad to be here. This is my first non-early edge show, so I'm excited to talk some more baseball than just one pick.
We're definitely going to have that. We're going to run through every single game on the slate, talk a little bit about what you're thinking. I know you're having a good start to the year. Excited to have you here and maybe get into some conversations about maybe a little bit more. But let's waste no time, get the Sims up, and let's get it going.
Let's do it. All right, we got the first game here, Pitt and Milwaukee. Love these games here. Brandon Woodruff on the mound. I've got him winning 68.1% of the time, 213. I think the number now is currently inflated even more than that. Last I saw some 230s, 235s in the market on this one. Not enough for me to get to the other side on Pitt, but I think that if you're attacking this one, it's likely going to be team totals, things like that on the Milwaukee side. Do any of you guys have any interest in the game, any plays, any thoughts on it? Because I don't have a ton. I'm way too close. No real value for me on it.
Yeah.
John, go ahead.
Brandon Woodruff struggled to start the season. That's all I got. I would kind of want to lean Pirates just because of the value. Like you said, I agree. It's definitely overinflated, but the Brewers are so much better against a righty. So I'm probably just going to end up staying off that.
Yeah, that was my play pretty much. Brewers righty. I don't really trust much here with Mitch Keller. I'm a little worried about how this is going to go. I mean, if you look at some of his numbers, I was diving into them this morning when I got started. He has like a 3.39 expected ERA this season, but has allowed about like 8 runs in 7.5 innings of work. So it isn't really going so well for Mitch, but he should be doing even worse, right? Because his expected career numbers are worse than what his expected number is right now. I just don't think he's throwing the ball well. I was looking at some of the way he was throwing against some of the teams he's played. I just don't really trust it. I think the Brewers are going to be able to get 3 runs in the first 5 innings, and I got a nice number, minus 105. I'm trying to stay away from juice this season. That was my big mistake last season. So, we're staying minus 105 on the team total in the first 5. I think they get it done. I think they hit them up.
Yeah, I tend to agree. If you look, we're not talking massive sample sizes, but he's got 80 plus innings against left-handed hitters. Not good. It has not been good for him. The actual weighted on base average against lefties in his career, 391. Not giving up a ton of home runs, but he's just not missing bats. A K rate below 8 per 9. Just not good stuff. Not in this park, not with the lefties that they have in that lineup. So the value is definitely there a little bit on the Pitt side, but not something I personally am comfortable with. So for me, it would be a Milwaukee team total, and it would probably be a Milwaukee team total in the first 3 or 5 innings.
Yeah, definitely. All right. No need to spend too much time on the Pirates, as we say a lot. Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Guardians, guys, this game has been on the docket for like 3 days. We're finally going to get Shane Bieber versus Dallas Keuchel. What are we thinking?
Well, I'm not the biggest believer. I get to say this joke 3 days in a row, essentially, but not the biggest believer here in Shane Bieber. Been very impressed with the Cleveland lineup so far this season. We'll see if it's mostly short-term variance or if they're legit as we get a little bit further into the season. But I make this game basically a pick 'em. I make the White Sox slight favorites here, minus 104. So I'm definitely on the White Sox side today, like I've been posting for the last 2 days. Same play for me. The good news is, for me at least, the market seems to really want to buy action on Cleveland here. So it's given us a nice little price on the White Sox. But for me personally, I have to play it just at this number here. So I'd love your guys' take on it, though, because I don't know if you guys agree with me or not on this one.
I am actually on the other side. So I agree with you in the sense that I'm not completely a believer, I guess. But the Guardians actually just put Owen Miller on the IL, so that's a big blow for them. They do tend to struggle against lefties, but they did hit Keuchel well last season. But the big thing, and the White Sox, these lineups just came out. The White Sox are sitting a few big bats as well. But the big thing that pushed me over the edge was the White Sox are second worst in the league in weighted on base average against righties this season. So I obviously don't think that's going to continue for a very long time. Like they're going to regress to the mean. But for now, I'm going to ride that streak.
Wait, so you're going with the Guardians, or
I am on the Guardians in a play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I took a little juice on it, but I am on the Guardians.
I think my lean is probably with Mike here. If I'm going to be the deciding vote, I was on it the other day. I'm honestly not taking it today because it's felt like so weird. This matchup has been coming up for so long. I feel like I have no idea what's actually going to happen. I feel like I've been sitting here thinking, analyzing this specific pitcher matchup way too much. It's like going back to your third test choice answer. Like it should have just been, my first choice was White Sox. The plus 125 value was just too much for this team. I mean, I know there's no Eloy in the lineup, but like John said, there are some names missing from the Guardians lineup too. I know Quan is sitting too, and I don't know. I think it could be a little bit of a flash in the pan. They've been getting RBIs from like the 8 spot and Omar Mercado a lot, and I just don't really trust it. Ahmad Rosario, Franmil Reyes aren't exactly doing that much. I think they could lose, but we'll see. Bieber is pretty good. I don't know how I'm feeling on him. This is a big start for him, I think, though. We'll have to. This is going to be like a big thing. If he doesn't sort of have a good start here, I think people are going to start selling on him.
Yeah, I think. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think people will sell on him. I think he's got some of the name value that I think that people are going to still believe in him for pretty much a full year at this point.
That's fair. I think just the spider tack problem now after we saw, if he can't get it going, I mean, it won't be as bad as Garrett Cole. Also, just quick comment on that. Like, he's just so bad in cold weather, man. It's hilarious. Like, when it's cold outside and Garrett Cole's pitching, like, auto fade. But anyway. All right, on to the next one. We have a lot of
last thing I wanted to say is I just think it's funny how, like, when you do have a rain out for multiple days, you do just spend so long going back and forth and over analyzing. And I did the same thing. I went back and forth, and I think usually when that happens, you've got to assume that it's an even line, right? So I probably played too much juice on it, but that goes back to this Mike Sims, and I would probably agree with him there.
Yep. All right. We got the next game coming up here is this Philadelphia game. What are we thinking about the Colorado Rockies, who last I checked were leading the league in OPS a couple weeks in now? What do you make of this new lineup? Are they legit? Charlie Blackmon just signed a deal with a sports book too, so lots to discuss here.
Wow, I did not see the deal with the sportsbook, but I will say on the Colorado side, CJ Cron, I think the guy hits a home run every night, it seems like. So that's definitely helping some of their numbers here. But as far as this game where it's at, I mean, look, if you want to bet into it, I think you could find an even money and get your 10 cents of value on it if you want to. I personally am not playing anything here in this one. Day game in Colorado, it's way too close on the market to me, so I don't have a strong take on either side, but would love to hear your thoughts on it if you do.
Yeah, I'm actually on the Rockies here. I think that they should be favored. Honestly, the Phillies have lost, I believe let me check my numbers. They're 1-5 on the road this season, and the Rockies are 6-3 at home, I believe. The Phillies have lost 8 of 10. The Rockies have won 8 of 10. But the main thing that stood out for me here, the Rockies have the 4th best bullpen in the league. And they haven't been doing it with their top 3 guys. They've been rotating like 5-6 guys to do it. So, and they've played 9 of their 11 games at home with that ERA. So that's what's really impressing me there. I thought that the Phillies bullpen blew it yesterday. I thought that they were due to break out in Colorado, but I just don't think this is the starting pitching matchup for it, honestly.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. I'd also be interested to see what lineup they haven't released their lineup yet. It wouldn't shock me to see them on this road trip here to someone get a day off today in this day game.
Yeah, both sides. I could definitely see that.
Colorado, I think the lineup is out for Colorado. It looks like Blackman, Grichuk, Bryant, Crone,
Yeah.
McMahon.
Are we all good there? Because that's the
Yeah.
only thing I was worried about was the lineup
Mostly
for
good.
Rockies
Yeah,
side.
mostly
Okay.
mostly good. Crone, Bryant, Blackman, Grichuk are all in, which
Exactly.
is most.
I'm going to
Perfect.
I took the first 5 on this one for the Rocks. I thought that was probably how I wanted to play it. I don't really know if I trust Eflin. He's had a couple starts at Coors before. One of them went pretty poorly. And if these guys are seeing the ball as well as they are, I think it could keep up. I took the first. I've been loving. Okay, so you're going to hear this a lot. I've been playing a lot of these first 5 team total overs. I really like the numbers you're getting on them. I feel like they're a good way to target certain pitchers. And it's been playing pretty well, honestly. So we're going with it today. You got the plus. I think it's a nice number here on the Rockies. Yeah, it's okay. It's minus 115 for over 2.5, but I feel like that's pretty doable considering it's at Coors. Considering this game should have a good number of runs scored. Just need 3 runs in the first 5 to hit. So I really like that play. And the first 5, I think the Rockies will win at even money. So I'll take that.
Nice. How about the any interest in the total at all?
I don't know. I think I think it might be an under day. I've seen some projections have the under. I don't know what you guys are thinking though.
The last 2 days I would have thought would be easy unders, especially with the gameplay. But yesterday we saw the Phillies bullpen blow it. That worries me. I'd probably just stay away from it because of that. Mike, what do you think?
Yep, I'm staying away for the exact reason, but I do have a slight lean towards the under. The current year, current conditions, current baseball, everything. I think that most of the 11 and a halfs are a half run too high in Colorado. So I think this one should be just under 11. So I would lean towards the under, but certainly not enough to play it.
Yep, agree. Yeah, we got a request for the VMI. So the VMI is in Colorado right now. Actually, I look at the VMI for every game. I just don't want to drown everyone's ears out with VMI. But the VMI that we have for Colorado actually favors Philly. Colorado's been here for a while, right? So once you sort of settle in, there isn't really such an advantage to like returning home. It sort of diminishes the more they get used to it. But Philly isn't used to it, and so they're going to have an easier time hitting those breaking pitches. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, look, it is still good weather. The air density is like 44. The ADI is like 44. It's Colorado air. I think we'll still get the runs. I like that team total a lot. That's why I paid the minus 115 on it. So, I'm not really touching the overall total. I just probably an over though. It just feels like it. No real analytical take though.
Yeah, that's another reason I'm staying off. Obviously, I use that data, but it is relatively warm in Colorado today. It's going to be basically 70 degrees for this game. Pretty warm for an April afternoon game in Colorado. So,
I mean, look, Marquez is nice in his home stadium. He had a good home ERA under 3.5 last year. He definitely does get it done there, which is just another reason why I don't hate the plus money first 5. Again, I'm happy to fade Eflin. I don't even know why I go dyslexic on that guy's name every single time I want to call him Elfin. It's fine. But let's move on to the Atlanta and Dodger game. I think a lot of people are interested in this one. Dodgers couldn't get it done last night. Are they bouncing back?
That was, I liked the Dodgers last night, honestly.
Me
I
too.
thought the line was pretty friendly. I was a little surprised that the Sims didn't like them more in this spot. For whatever reason, large sample sizes, possibly. Charlie Morton always gets respect, both in the betting market and in the simulations. For whatever reason, I think that his time is running out and rather quickly, personally. So I was a little shocked that my number wasn't closer to minus 150 on this game. That's kind of where I was expecting it to come in. I've got it 132. I might end up playing it with no value still at minus 130. I do that often in some of these spots, and a lot of people ask why. When my sim number matches where the market is, it tells me it's a fair value, and I'm okay if some of my other analysis matches up and puts me in that direction. So this is one of those cases. I don't have the simulation edge required to go fully bet the Dodgers, but I still do like them in this spot.
Yeah, I completely agree there. I was also surprised when I didn't see your sims higher on them. On the other side, though, I wasn't too surprised about the letdown game yesterday against a lefty. They always are terrible against lefties, and it seems like the rest of the team kind of just gives in whenever they face a lefty early in the game, even against the bullpen. But I love the Dodgers. I'm on them too. Gonsolin's pitched well to start. He doesn't get deep into games, which is a little bit of a problem. But since the Dodgers were able to save pretty much their whole bullpen yesterday, that shouldn't matter as much. And the Atlanta bullpen isn't very good. They're bottom third in the league to start the season, so that's a big problem as well.
Yeah, that's not great. I'm gonna take. I think the Braves still can get some runs. I think this might be a high scoring affair. I don't see this one being as low scoring as yesterday's game. I like a lot of the first 5 over lines, maybe for both teams. The only one I took right now, and like hearing you guys talk about it, I'm probably gonna go back and add a little bit more. I probably like the first 5 over in general, but I already like the Braves to score 3 runs in the first 5 at plus 130. Again, that's just a generous number, and I'll go ahead and get that chance. I think that their lineup should be able to hit Gonsolin. He hasn't really lasted a long time either, so you might see some of that like softer middle relief. And again, I just think this one's going to have a little bit of a higher scoring result. It is a little bit of an earlier game out there in the West Coast. It's going to be a pretty nice day, I believe. Let me just double check on that for the Dodgers.
The weather is fantastic for this game.
Yeah. It's going to be gorgeous out there. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that it's probably going to go over. What's it at 8.5 right now? I think it gets to 9. I think that's a fair bet. I'll probably add that. I like the first 5 over. I just think you're going to have sunny day game baseball, and I'm not really going to sit here. And like you said, Morton gets a lot more respect than maybe he deserves. So yeah, I lean over for most of the things on this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, comment on the weather quickly. The VMIs are very neutral for both teams, but again, 70 degrees, and the air density is relatively low. 65 is a pretty good number for this time of year in this ballpark. So
it is
definitely helps having a day game. I would like to see it creep up to 75 to 80 degrees personally to really start attacking the over, but
it has the biggest park boost factor on home runs today. So if you're looking for guys to maybe crank one out, the wind's blowing straight out. It might be a good day to go grab like a Max Muncy, because that guy, I don't know, he can't seem to hit the side of the barn this year, but he'll figure it out. So its odds are probably decent. Getting the good walks though, so we'll see. But anyway, yeah, no real pick on the side for me on that game. I know you guys like the Dodgers, but I'm a little worried. Everyone seems a little too high on them. Happy 420, but let's go on to Cincinnati and the San Diego Padres. What do you think about this game? I'm kind of I don't really trust either of these pitchers. I'll just say that, and I'll let you guys talk.
This one is interesting for me. I'm going to start with it because John had a tweet maybe 4 or 5 days ago for like early reactions, overreactions potentially for the MLB season. I kind of mentioned it yesterday. My hot take is the Cincinnati Reds are the worst team in Major League Baseball. That is my hot take. And
I like it.
I've updated some things to kind of reflect it. It does. Yes, obviously they're 2-10. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they're 2-10, which is one of the worst teams in baseball. But look, I think that this is a spot where I've got Mackenzie Gore as a massive favorite, 179, and I don't feel great about it. And then I head over and look at the market, and it's minus 200 in some of these spots. No disrespect to him or this Padres lineup at any time, but even against a really bad team, I'm not sure that Mackenzie Gore deserves to be a minus 200 favorite with that lineup behind him, in my opinion. So that's where I stand on it. I can't really stomach playing the Reds. Maybe I can. It's approaching that value at plus 180, basically, where I think this game's kind of going to close. But it's certainly not going to be comfortable backing what you've seen from the Reds so far this season. So that's my hot take. Reds suck. Worst team in baseball.
I completely agree with you. And so I think the market's overreacting in 2 spots. Jonathan India is still out, and Tyler Stevenson came out yesterday, and he is a lefty crusher. So usually the Reds are actually terrible against lefties and not as bad against righties. It's kind of been the opposite this season, but they're really bad against both, really, but it's been just as bad against lefties. So I said before the season, the Reds, the Athletics, and the Blue Jays, those are my 3 win total overs and unders, my 3 favorites. And once again, a way too early overreaction would be that all those 3 look amazing right now. But I completely agree here. I just don't think there's anything.
Yeah.
The
Nothing.
lineup's pretty weak. I mean, it's really hard to like fight for that lineup that they put out there every day. I mean,
today Tommy Pham is their best hitter against the Padres in a revenge game.
They weren't. Yeah, the lineup wasn't great in the first place, and then you take out the rookie of the year last year. You take out your best hitter against a lefty, Tyler Stevenson, who you built your lineup around this year. So that's just massive blow. They would have been a good underdog spot too, but
yeah, and it's like they just don't. The bottom of their lineup is disgusting. I don't think you can trust them at all. I don't have any problems. And again, I don't really trust their pitcher today either. Gutierrez, I don't really think he's going to do all that much. And I got even money on the Padres over 2.5 runs in the first 5. Like I'm going to take that bet. Padres have been hitting pretty well, getting good production out of Eric Hosmer.
Very early too. I've noticed they've scored a lot of runs in the first inning lately.
Yeah, they're getting on the board early. Machado's hitting well. I think last 2 games they started like the same thing, right? Didn't like Machado have like that 2-run home run after
Machado bomb,
same exact open? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're clearly playing well. I don't really love what this Reds team is putting out, so I'm taking that even money play on the Padres to get 3 runs in the first 5. I love these lines. They're really only available at DraftKings. I can't see them anywhere else. They're enjoyable. You don't have to deal with the bullpens. But yeah, nothing really on the side there for me. I do understand taking the Padres, but just know you are paying the price. Like you are paying the price, just period. So maybe like a donkey parlay leg. It's a perfect chance to get Phoenix Suns, if that's the right term. Just get minus 500, man. Still hurts. But okay, let's move on. Jordan Lyles and Dalton Jeffries. This is like that's kind of gross, right? I'm not the only one who feels that way about this pitching matchup.
Yeah, definitely not the most exciting pitching matchup on the day, and not terribly exciting offenses either. Chief, we gotta chill there, bud. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this game, honestly. I make the A's minus 125, and I don't feel good about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mike there. Although I do have to give Dalton Jeffries a little shout out. He helped me with my biggest win of the season, plus 95 last time out. So he was spotting it well. But the other thing about the A's is they're missing a couple players. I believe it's Chad Pinder and 2 other guys on the COVID list, which is why I've tended to stay away from them. But I think this is close to a pick 'em, so I would just stay away.
That's fair. I have a terrible dad joke on this game. It's like the Staten Island series because it's the O's versus the A's, but yeah, no, I'm excited about this one because I think you can fade Jordan Lyles. So I'm gonna say the first 5 team total over 2.5 plus 125 on the A's. I just don't trust Jordan Lyles to keep anyone from hitting the baseball. He does not have good peripherals. He has not looked great. I just trust this A's team. I know it's a decent park to pitch in, but the A's have surprised people. And again, I like to hunt for those plus lines. We know that's what really turns it when, you end up going like 50-50. If you have an average plus line, you're not going to lose money. So we like to play those plus lines, find value where we can. I think this is one of those spots. I just don't trust Lyles. So yeah. The Staten Island series should have a couple runs. I think I like the A's too, minus 125. I just don't trust Baltimore on the road right now. I think they need to prove that they can win on the road. They haven't looked great. I mean, they're getting anchored down by some players that just don't make enough contact for me. A lot of strikeouts on that team right now.
So many strikeouts. It's amazing. I mean, they've gotten so many runners on base too. It just seems like every time they do get runners on base, it's just non-productive outs.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. In terms of like, here, I'm just pulling it up. I think strikeouts, is that pitching strikeouts though? It might be. I can't even tell on the ESPN site sometimes. But yeah, they really haven't been doing it really well here. Okay, I got it. Yeah, they're third, so they have 118 strikeouts. Padres and Angels have 122 and 119, but the difference is that those teams are batting 231 and 258, and the Orioles are batting 209. They really just cannot be trusted. One of the worst teams right now in baseball, third worst OPS behind the Diamondbacks and the Reds, or in front of technically. But yeah, those are like the three worst teams in baseball: Reds, Diamondbacks, Orioles, and then it's like a battle at the bottom right now for who's not going to be irrelevant between like the Tigers, Royals, and Nationals. It's been an interesting open to the season, that's for sure.
And you get a lottery this year, so it's not just the worst team is going to get the best. I mean, granted, it's baseball, but I would say that the top 3-5 picks, there's a big difference between them. But after that, it's all about scouting. But the top few picks are big, so it's interesting.
Definitely. I know I'm starting to get a little bit more into the minors with my involvement in my new dynasty league, having a good time with that. So starting to learn some of these names, starting to learn some of the guys who got drafted this year. Give me a couple of years and I'll know every single player. They're
honestly, that's the best way to do it. That's how I started doing it. Even before I worked in baseball, that's how I started doing it. So that's definitely the best way to do it.
Oh, fantasy baseball. Like I remember when I was like a kid and I was like 14, 15 years old and I was playing fantasy baseball. Like I could name the rotation for every single major league team. And I was like showing off for the other kids at camp. They're like, how do you know we went to sports camp. So like, this wasn't like some stupid sports nerd. Like everybody was obsessed with sports. So it was like, how do you know every single pitcher? And they were just like, who's on the Rockies? And I was like, I could just drop it. So it was like, I think that was back when like Walker was there. This was like 10 years ago. No, more like 15, but anyway, on to the next game. What do we have here for this? This is the second game now for the White Sox and the Cleveland Guardians. I still almost do it every time, guys. I still almost say Indians. So what do we think for game two? Anyone playing anything?
I'm not playing anything until we see a little bit of. I'd like to see how the first game's going to play out. See if one of the teams happens to have to get into the bullpen early. I think that's going to be one interesting way to look. You can look at the lineups that they put out and kind of predict what we think we see in the second game as well. But I'm not going to bet it pregame at this point. I think it's pretty clear that what's going on for me is that the model really likes Chicago White Sox. Has got them favored in this game as well, just like in the matchup against Bieber. So, that's where I'm at on it, but I'm not playing anything on the second game ahead of time. It's not generally something I recommend doing. But I'd love to hear your thoughts if you disagree on that part of it.
No, I completely agree. I would never play a doubleheader before the first game even really ends. I mean, I guess sometimes you want to, if you see something happening before like the seventh inning, you want to get a play in before the line shoots up. But this is one of those where I would just play maybe the opposite team if I'm trying to win my money back between these two teams. But the only time I would say yesterday, both doubleheaders were swept, which is interesting because usually they split. But this might be a good spot for them to split again if one team uses their whole bullpen.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I mean, both these bullpens have had like a full 3 days off. Like nobody's worn down, right? Because these guys just haven't played. So I don't know if that's going to be the issue that it normally can be because they haven't played in like 3 days. So we'll see how it goes. I'm probably staying away from the second game in general. I mean, like you said, John, both got swept yesterday. I don't think the White Sox win both. I think that's hard to do. But I like taking the plus money on both and expecting to win money by splitting. I think that might be an interesting strategy at worst because they could win both. They probably are the better ball team, especially, depending on the roster they put out for the night game. I do think the White Sox are the better ball team. But again, no early plays. We literally just said it yesterday. Like, don't play a second game until the first game gets going and you can see sort of what's setting up because you're at a disadvantage if you don't. But all right, St. Louis, this is an interesting one. Miami, Alcantara, what do we think, guys? He's a big name, getting a lot of respect. Minus 150s are out there. What do we think? Mike, I know your model loves St. Louis, so.
Yeah, we've been on St. Louis. We played them yesterday in a spot where, again, we made them minus 109, I believe, or plus 109 yesterday, one of the two. Very similar situation here, and kind of crazy because I don't like Michaelis really at all. He very sketchy. It feels very uncomfortable watching him pitch. It feels very uncomfortable betting on him. But if there's a place that I want to do it, I'd like to do it in a pretty strong pitching environment here in Miami. I think that this is a good spot to deploy him. On the other side, I love Sandy. I think he's great, right? And to show you how great I think he is, because we've talked about how high the model is on St. Louis, it's still got him favored And I think that part is pretty impressive. I think that the minus 150s that are hanging around out there in the market, I think it's certainly inflated towards the Miami side, which, I mean, I get it. Team is trending in the right direction kind of thing. A lot of people want to buy into some of that momentum with the young Sandy on the mound, but for me personally, it's Cardinals or nothing here, and I like the Cardinals. Pretty good price.
Yeah. So I don't trust Miles Mikolas much either. Even when he pitches well, he doesn't tend to pitch deep. He can get into walk trouble, so that worries me a little bit. The Cardinals yesterday, I love them too against a lefty. They absolutely crushed lefties. And but here, this would be one where I would think I would want to lean Miami, but the way that their lineup has been hitting lately, I just can't back them right now. So if anything, hopefully the Cards win today and we can back the Marlins as a home dog tomorrow. But other than that, I'm just staying off this today.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm probably, I mean, Mikolas looked nice against the Brewers, but I don't really think that's saying all that much. They've been sort of average at best against right-handed and like terrible against lefties, but that's not what this is about. This is about Miami. I just think that they've managed to hit really, really, really well at home. Like they're one of the best teams in terms of like their ability, like their splits at home have been really nice. I think losing yesterday means they're looking for the bounce back. This is a big game. I mean, they lose the series if they lose today. And we know that baseball teams really do look at these series. And so this is kind of a big game. They got their ace on the mound. I like them to win it. I don't know if I'm really 100%. I mean, look, I'm probably, I have the juice on my board. I like the first five. I was able to get, like, without paying too much of a premium, able to get that first five at minus 142 this morning at FanDuel. I thought that was decent. To cut out the bullpen because that's where I think that they would struggle. The Marlins, it's a little bit worrisome at the tail end there, but I do like Alcantara today. I think he gets it done. I think he does get to strike out these guys and keep them off balance today. So I'll sip the juice. Again, this isn't a huge play. It's a standard quarter unit play for me. I do have a couple half unit plays on the sheet. There's a lot of action for me today. I'm starting to really dive in. So busy one for me, but I do think the Marlins get it done in the first five for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting about, at least for me, obviously some of it's trending on recently. These two pitchers, Mikolas and Alcantara, both have very similar number of innings so far in Major League Baseball. They have nearly identical weighted on base average allowed to both left and right-handed hitters.
Very
both of them are nearly identical. So what will separate them just a touch is going to be the K rate on Alcantara. But his K rate is not that impressive overall. Is over the large body of work. Obviously trending in the right direction and still growing up a lot. But I'm just looking at some of like the large numbers here. They both between 260 and 280 innings against right and left-handed hitters, and nearly identical numbers. 316 against lefties, 287 against righties. Against when they don't have the advantage, the platoon advantage, they're basically right near that league average weighted on base average allowed, and they're significantly better against the same hand. So very interesting, because if you had asked me that question, I definitely would have said Mikolas was 20 to 25 points worse throughout his career.
Yeah,
I think
I would have said the same.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely agree with you. It's kind of shocking, right, to hear that they're pretty similar. One of the reasons that I felt okay taking the first five here is that Mikolas has had issues on the road pretty consistently. You look back at a couple different seasons, he's definitely, not the best road pitcher. And that's something that you want to try to identify. You don't want to look at too small of samples, but you go back to the last couple of years that he's pitched, he has struggled more regularly on the road. So I'm pretty good with this one. I think it's definitely a mental win spot for the Marlins. This is a big series against one of the premier teams in the National League right now. They definitely want this win. They don't want to open the series down 0-2. I definitely don't hate the price. I understand going that way with the Sims, but Marlins just feel like the right call today. I feel like they're getting this one done. So a little bit of a gut play for me, but let's go Marlins first time.
Last comment on it before we move on. Sure. Alcantara did start his career with the St. Louis Cardinals.
There we go. Revenge game time. Let's go. Yeah. We love a narrative.
Love a narrative.
All right, my New York Yankees. I mean, this one yesterday was not pretty, but are the Tigers just like a miserable bottom 5 team that doesn't really have a chance here. You just want to fade them right now because that lineup's pretty weak. What are you guys thinking?
I'll let John start this one if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So the Tigers are missing Javi Baez still on the IL, and Casey Mize went on the IL as well. Obviously, he's the starter, so he's not starting tonight. But I do think that has a little bit of an effect in the clubhouse as well. Kind of just like the feeling that everybody just has to get injured right now to start the season. And that when you're losing as well, that kind of just combines and makes it a lot worse. This is one of those where I do think there's a little value on the Tigers, even with those guys out of the lineup, but I don't. I just don't know if it's a winner. Like, I like the value. Once again, this is one where I would probably hope that the Yankees win today, use up their bullpen again because they used a ton of bullpen yesterday, and then we can play the Tigers tomorrow. But I'm probably staying off this one here.
Yep. I think I agree. I do think the Yankees are going to get this one done, and then they might be a little bit more willing to, for the Tigers to kind of win that getaway for them as they set their eyes on the next series. Look, the numbers are there for the Yankees, right? Stanton has an expected batting average of 296. So when he's hitting the ball well, it's usually hard for this team to, like, it's kind of how he goes, the team goes. Like, I watch a lot of Yankee games. And Gallo's looking terrible right now. Like, the slugging is there as it always is, but I'm not rushing to take this team at the price. But Severino does have, if he can get right, like, he's a lot better than Eduardo Rodriguez. Like, Rodriguez has not opened the season well. So I don't hate the Yankees. I do think they get it done, but you're always paying a tax, and it's a little tough for me to pay that. I mean, look, Rodriguez gave up 7 runs on the road against his old team, right? The only 2 were earned though, so very interesting there. I still don't trust him coming back home. It's been pretty gross for him. All his peripherals look disgusting on Savant. So Yankees are nothing, but I don't like the tax at all.
Yeah. Like John said, the model is going to show just slight value on Detroit. Basically, the 140 is kind of where you're seeing in the market. You might see some 150s by first pitch. The only thing I'll note really on the Yankees side is obviously not the great matchup against a lefty for Joey Gallo. But Gallo has been one of the guys in Major League Baseball that has been the most unlucky so far to start the season in terms of his actual weighted on base average compared to expected. We're finally getting enough plate appearances where that number can start to be a little meaningful. And with Gallo so far this year, his weighted on base average 200, his expected is 364. Just an absolutely massive gap that should turn around the other way at some point. And then Gleyber Torres, pretty much the same thing, 248 actual, 358 expected. If they get those expected numbers out of some of those pieces in the lineup, a lot of those results end up going a different direction for them because those are typically hitters who are hitting with runners on base a lot of the time in this Yankee lineup. So that's what I would comment there. And then while we're talking about that quickly, I would like to point out the Chicago White Sox have 2 hitters that have absolutely been crushed by some of that batted ball luck so far this season. Jose Abreu and Luis Roberts, both in the lineup today. 268 actual weighted on base average for Luis Robert. His expected number is 462 right now so far. And then Jose Abreu, 301 actual, 484 expected. They've got 2 of the top 5 most unlucky hitters there in that spot. And one of them above them, Christian Arroyo, with only 21 plate appearances. I'm not really counting that one. So yeah, look out for the White Sox here at some point, hopefully today, since I've bet on them.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying about their weighted on base average against righties. Is seeing that you would obviously expect them to improve very soon.
Yeah,
so
for sure,
Definitely. And again, they're going to be dangerous. Like we saw it. I mean, they are in the hunt. I think they're a major contender this year. They almost put it together. They almost got out of the American League. I think they're dangerous. That's for sure.
Actually, last comment on that list too.
Yeah.
I'm basically saying you need 25 plate appearances minimum at this point. If you do that, they have 3 of the top 10 most unlucky hitters. Josh Harrison is in there as well with his 175 weighted on base average. That should be 324. Yeah, they've got a lot. Lori Garcia's in 13th, but yeah, crazy.
And they're still winning games decently too. So when they put it together and those balls don't, rocket into a glove, which is basically what's been happening in some of these White Sox scenarios, right? It just seems to find the fielder a little too much. They're going to put it together. But all right, speaking of putting it together, are the Angels going to be able to get a win against the Astros today with Ohtani on the mound? There's a lot of betting going on whenever he steps on the mound. I don't really end up betting on a lot of Ohtani games. I like to stay away from those big public spots. But what are you guys thinking today for Angels Astros?
Well, it is tax season, so we have to talk about all the taxes. We talk about the Yankee tax a lot. There's definitely a Shohei Ohtani tax on these lines when he is pitching and hitting in the game. That's exactly what you have again today. So as far as whether or not I'm going to be on the Astros fully, potentially, but definitely where I'm leaning at this point. I honestly, I thought the number would be a little higher with Trout there and Rendon. I really thought that this number would be a little higher, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go with this. With Ohtani, you always pay a premium. It's just like when you get DeGrom on the mound, you can never bet on DeGrom, but you can always fade him if you do see the value there. Just like Chris Sale, when he was in his prime, loved to fade him when the value is there because the lines are just so high. And so Ohtani is one of those guys where there's always going to be a value against him. I'm just not sure with Altuve injured. That lineup, they do struggle against lefties, so I'm not surprised that they struggled yesterday, but I would be a little worried without Altuve in there. So I'm just saying off this game, but I do think there's value on the Astros.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's how you'd have to go. It's not like Ohtani's touting some crazy good record to start the year either. He's been a little rough around the edges. He's not this ace of a pitcher. It's the bat. It's not like we're talking about we need to split these players up because of Wayne Gretzky assists and Wayne Gretzky goals are too powerful. No, Ohtani's like a mid-tier pitcher. He's reliable. He can get it done. He can have a good outing. He can be impressive when he's feeling it, but clearly he's not like the ace of the rotation, or he wouldn't be if he was just a pitcher. I don't know. I look, the guy's an incredible hitter. That's for sure, man. The dude can hit. But yeah, I'm not playing this game at all. Let's talk a little bit about the Arizona-Washington game. I don't like either of these starting.
The last thing I want to say about Ohtani is he did, pitching-wise, he did start last season really slow as well. So he has had a couple terrible starts to start the season, but he did do this as well last year and still won the MVP. So nothing out of the norm, really.
Well, then maybe we keep taking it against him as he warms up, and then you bet on him late in the year. That's an interesting one. I got to look into that split a little bit.
Yeah. Also, quick one there. We mentioned Altuve being out. I'm very interested. We haven't talked about him a lot just because he's kind of buried in that lineup. But Jeremy Pena is probably going to lead off for them. He's top 5 so far in terms of barrels per plate appearance. Very interesting. I don't know if obviously I would say at this point it's likely just a noisy situation, very short, small sample size, but definitely something to keep your eye on. He's been hitting the ball. Average exit velocity 93. Obviously he's nowhere near Giancarlo Stanton at 98, but he's definitely up there in Major League Baseball so far this season.
Yeah, I will say Jeremy Pena is one of those guys that I did not have my eye on before this season at all. I did not see this coming, but when I heard of it, one of my Jake Fettner on Twitter, if any of y'all follow him, he told me to watch out for him. He's his AL Rookie of the Year preseason pick. So that obviously got my eye on him. And every time I've seen him so far, he's impressed. So he's passed the eye test so far as well.
Yep. One of those situations where it wouldn't shock me later in the season if he's stolen that leadoff role from Altuve, and Altuve bumps down a little bit.
100%. So, especially if he's successful now. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Next game. Merrill Kelly, Washington, Arizona. What a fun series this one is. Anyone else want to take this one? I don't have a ton to say about it.
This is a pretty gross one. I think this is actually going to be a game where maybe we get some offense from these teams. I know it's a little contrarian, but the number's a little low for these names. Fetty is bad. Kelly is not trustworthy. I think Washington has just been underperforming. Like if you go look at their weighted runs created in their home stadium, I'm pretty sure like it's 33. So they're literally producing 66% worse than the average major league team at home this season. They haven't been able to do anything in their home games. I think it's coming. I think it's just due. So I'm going to take the over on this game. I know it's a little bit risky, minus 115 at over 8. I think this one definitely can get to 8. I think we've seen that these teams both have lackluster bullpens as well. So I don't hate the over. And I think the Diamondbacks are going to get 2 runs in the first 5. So I'm taking the over 1.5 and taking the juice on these plays. This is minus 130 for them to get 2 runs in the first 5 innings. I think that should not be too much of a problem because I just don't think Eric Fetty is good. I just don't. And I will put money on it. And a little bit of my reputation because clearly if he pitches a clean couple of innings against this terrible Diamondbacks team, I'm going to look dumb, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So this is just like a super weird series because both bullpens are so bad, yet neither team has been able to score. So it's just one of those like things that you just question, well, what is going on here? So Eric Fetty actually was he was the Nats' top prospect at one point, but he just hasn't found his footing in the major leagues. He did have a couple of good starts to start the season. Maybe this is finally the year, but it's just like him and Victor Robles. It's been like that for 2-3 years for Nats fans now. So yeah, I would probably lean the Nats. I don't mind the over, but I'm just staying away from this game because anything could happen. I feel like.
Yep. You're correct, Justin, what you said too. Obviously, you got the numbers in front of you as well. But the Nationals definitely have been very unlucky so far in terms of their expected data. Number 3 behind the White Sox Tigers is the Washington Nationals. 282 actual. Their expected number up to 340. Massive difference in those spots. So another thing we'll talk about. I love, obviously, I love expected data. It's my favorite thing. We've talked about how the massive delta in the White Sox, 296 to their 383 expected. The team that has overperformed the most, the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah. I had a feeling because they scored like 45 runs in their first 5 games, something incredible. The only thing is or at least I didn't expect them to regress that far. But then what do they do against the Giants at home? There's like 2 runs, 2 runs, and 2 runs. So yeah, saw that coming. Wish Definitely. I saw it a little bit earlier
though. Do you want to guess the top 5? I've told you 3 of them. So who are the next 2 teams in terms that have been the most unlucky so far?
I'm going to go out. I'm going to take a wild guess. I'm going to say the Blue Jays.
Not the Blue Jays. They're in the bottom
Phillies.
Half. Nope. It is Phillies. The Houston Astros and the New York Yankees.
I would not have guessed that. I would not have guessed either of those teams.
I felt like it was definitely an American League East team because I feel like the runs production hasn't been there in the AL East while the hitters have looked pretty good. And that's supposed to be a pretty high-scoring battle there. I mean, what was that? We both missed on that over 9 yesterday in the Toronto-Boston game.
Maybe another factor there could be that the Yankees have played a lot of division games as well to start the season. So division teams know them better, play better defensively. So that could be a factor as well.
It's likely.
So it's also been cold. It's also been really cold on the East Coast. It's been really cold on the East Coast. So
Stanton and Judge also. Stanton hitting the ball so hard it can definitely
skew it a bit.
Yeah.
All right. This one's fun. The Giants-Mets series is supposed to be fun. I wish we didn't have the doubleheader, personally. I wish it was not rained out. I think that definitely changes things, the way the matchup works. But Rodon, Bassett, former Oakland A, Chris Bassett. Let's see. What do you think of Rodon? What do you think of this matchup?
I mean, who's going to pitch today is my question. How many innings are they going to need out of those starters? They're going to ask them to go like 7 because everybody's pitched. But I don't know. I think Rodon's pretty legit. This is a good pitcher park. Everybody. It's like the total is 6.5 on this game. Pretty ridiculous. But your model totally agrees. I don't know. What are your thoughts, John?
I love Carlos Rodon. He's been we talked about fantasy earlier. He's been one of those guys that I picked up, I believe it was 2 years ago, and been able to follow him for just about every start. and he dominates lefties as well. The Mets aren't nearly as good against lefties. They do have a couple lefty mashers in the middle of their lineup, like a JD Davis, Pete Alonso. So those are guys we'd have to watch out for. But I am on the Giants here. I think the Giants bullpen has more depth in general. And then the Mets winning both games yesterday as well. I think they just used a lot of their bullpen. Something to note, this is a 4-game series. So a lot of people are thinking just get on the Giants, they won't get swept. Well, I think this is more of it's an even line for me. So I like the Giants in this game. Then if they don't, I think they could win tomorrow to avoid the sweep. So that's how I'd play it.
Yep, I lean that way. This is another one the models like the Mets a little bit, which understandable considering the rotation that they have, the lineup that they have, playing at home makes all those things, right? I really expected my number, much like the Dodgers game today, frankly. I expected the number to really favor San Francisco just a little bit more in this spot, and it didn't. But definitely one where I'm probably, if I were to play it, I would certainly still bet into the Giants side. But man, I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be a great, potential playoff preview, but I just can't pull the trigger on it here. I don't know. I think it's a tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, the wind's blowing in. The air density is 75.5. Both these pitchers are really solid. I think it's the 6.5 still could be a gift. I think these offenses are still very respectable. Both these teams can hit the ball. A lot of people are very excited about this Mets offense, and for a decent reason. I mean, if they could get like production out of McNeil and McCann, it would be like a really, really, really good lineup. But look, the top of that Giants lineup is playing really well. Jock Peterson is going crazy. His expected slugging on the year is 735, which is just absurd. And a lot of their guys are playing really well. So I don't know. I probably would look to like a Mets team total. I don't know what you guys think of Bassett, though.
I actually love Bassett personally. Not as much against a Giants team that can platoon against him and throw out a bunch of lefties that can hit well, but I do like Chris Bassett in general.
Yeah, he has already been worse against the lefties. He's given up no hits against righties this year. That's crazy. So.
I mean, a lot of it is weather, a lot of it is Rodon, but you can tell what I think of him just based off the sim number with this game coming in under on the 6.5 line. 6.4 is where I've got it. I think he's good personally. My only way I would look to attack this game is a first 3 or first 5 under.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't have a play on it, and I probably am happy about that after hearing everybody talk about it. A couple more games on the docket.
Yeah, last thing about that is also the 6.5 line. It does seem like super gettable, but remember, these teams both played a doubleheader yesterday, 9 innings each for the first time as opposed to 7 innings. So it might look gettable even at 6.5, but got to be wary of that.
Yeah, probably a nice advantage to the pitchers for sure. But okay, looking like it's next time for the Berrios show. Pivetta and Berrios both with terrible starts to the year. Who fixes it? Who keeps pitching badly? What do we got for this American League East clash?
Well, hopefully they score some runs. I did play the over 9 yesterday and looked really silly with a 3-run total in that game. And they had plenty of action on the base paths early in the game too. I really, really thought we were going to see some runs on the board. I think that the total is still somewhat gettable here again. It's at 9. I have it at 9.4. I definitely lean over. The game is basically a pick 'em for me. So I mean, not basically, it is a pick 'em 104. I don't know who to trust on this side. Both of these pitchers can look like a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball in any given start. And they can also look like, okay, we're number 5 in the rotation, barely hanging on to a job at times. So I'm going to stay away from it. I might bet into the total a little bit. I'm going to use some of the players in daily fantasy tonight, but I would be lying if I said I felt great about playing Berrios in this game.
Yeah, I actually played the Blue Jays on early edge this morning. I love the Blue Jays here. I was honestly a bit surprised that you didn't have him rated a bit more highly. Nick Pivetta is he can be very good. Like when he's on, he is on. Like he will be very good, but he struggles with walks and home runs. And those are two things that the Blue Jays lineup feasts on. They're still without Teoscar Hernandez, but a guy who was a top prospect, Zach Collins, came from the White Sox. He was supposed to break out a couple years ago as well, and all of a sudden he's starting this season. He's been the Blue Jays DH, and he is mashing to start the season. So he's in the middle of that lineup as well, and I think that's going to be a big help. I love the Blue Jays here. Jose Barrios is a bit of a question mark, I will say, especially with his command, but he did pitch better last time out, and he pitched well his last time against the Red Sox last season. So, and the Blue Jays bullpen is rested, whereas I don't trust either bullpen, and the Blue Jays is rested, whereas the Red Sox pitched yesterday.
Definitely.
All fair.
I think you have a good point with the bullpen. I mean, I think Yimi Garcia took the loss yesterday for the Blue Jays. So they have most of their guys. Like Romano hasn't pitched in like 3 days. So you'll probably see the A squad for the Blue Jays, which is a good reason. But I don't trust Pivetta at all. And I mean, how many times do you get a game where, like, to start the season, both guys are sitting here with an expected slugging over 900 and expected weighted on base average over 550? Like, both these guys have just been gross to open the year. And we know that it's not a bad place to hit here in Boston. And both these lineups couldn't put points on the board. So I'm going to take a couple plays on this game. I think it's just, it's due. I would be shocked if one of these teams doesn't score like 5 runs today. I'll say that. But I'm going to take the Blue Jays to get 3 in the first 5. I don't know why DraftKings was giving me that over 2.5 at plus 120. Grabbing that, I got the Jays first 5 money line. I don't really know. Again, I think the bullpen probably gets it done, but I do like the first 5 a lot. And then over 9. I just think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I want a high-scoring game. Maybe this is too much betting with my heart, but I just think we get some runs. This is the American League East. God dang it. Let's get some scoring.
Yeah. So my advice on that too is we don't love to try and just bet into obvious push situations, but these AL East games like this in decent hitting environments overall, especially the powerful lineups like this, getting a line at 9 and not 9.5 in this is a pretty favorable spot. These games having a 4-4 situation where you're at least getting the 5th run for a push, that's happens quite frequently in this division. So a little protection baked into that. The other thing I want to talk about here is Springer. Are we going to see a Springer dinger first pitch of the game? Because I feel like we might, except for it's probably going to be a double off the wall in this park. But definitely look out. I think George Springer will be incredibly aggressive here against Pivetta. Pivetta's either going to walk him on 4 pitches, or I think he's definitely swinging at that first pitch in this game.
Would you take a prop on him to get past 1.5 total bases today? You think it's a good matchup for him?
I think it's an excellent matchup for him. And typically obviously the sportsbooks know this, and it's definitely priced in to some extent. But with a player like that and a team like that in this kind of overall environment, and then we've touched on the bullpens as well, I'm far more likely to – this is where I think some people get a little confused with player props, right? Sometimes player props, people look and they want to attack a player prop for a star player when they're like a minus 180 to minus 250 home favorite, and you're all but guaranteed losing 1 at bat. You've essentially – obviously you can say that you're going to get it because they're going to perform, but in this particular matchup where they are the road team, they're guaranteed the 9th inning team at bat. He is the leadoff hitter. You can absolutely ensure the number of plate appearances, which is absolutely critical in this situation. So yes, to answer your question, I do like George Springer over 1.5 total bases. I don't know what the juice is. You'd have to tell me on that, but
minus 105 at DraftKings right now isn't great.
Yes, I personally like it because I think he's a virtual lock for at least a double off the wall today.
Let's go. I'll take it with you. We can have a market movers play. What do you think, John? You like that play?
I like it. I can't do player props in my personal book. The damn illegal offline stuff, but I do like
those lines. Even if you get those lines on like an offshore, they're so gross. They're like 30-cent, 40-cent lines. I know that pain. I've only been able to really do props for the last 4 months, so I'm still coming into my own on them. And you can see it on my record. Like my straight picks this year are like up big, and then my props and my parlays are literally what's just dragging me down like an idiot. So if you really want the insider information, it's don't bet my props and parlays. Just take the damn straight picks, guys. But all right, I think that's going to be a good play. I'll put that on my sheet. I really do think that Springer can get that double. He's in a good spot today. Interestingly enough, the VMIs are terrible. The weather's terrible here for Boston. The air density is like 77. It's cold. It's going to be 44 degrees. But I just don't think that these pitchers, it really is going to matter. I'm really banking on the pitching being bad today, and these hitters just making good contact. Doesn't have to be home runs. Doesn't have to be doubles. I just think the number of hits are high. So if you want to do like the total hits, runs, errors type of thing, that could definitely be in play. I haven't seen those anywhere except for the illegal books. But I do like those plays. Probably like a points bet. But all right, a couple more games, guys. What do we think about these Tampa Bay Rays playing Chicago? Do you like Stroman to get this right? Do you think Tampa Bay is getting their stuff together? I mean, I played this guy at Tampa Bay last night, and my prediction was that the Cubs weren't going to get more than 5 or 6 hits, and they still managed to get 5 runs on 5 hits last night, which was hilarious. What a sweat. But does Tampa Bay keep it up? I think Drew Rasmussen can do it. I'm not really too sold on Stroman. What are we thinking, guys?
Yeah, the model's giving Stroman a lot of respect from just his larger body of work, which is what I think we're seeing here, at least on my number. I liked the Rays yesterday. I was definitely expecting model to be on Rays minus 125-ish anyway. Little bit surprised that it's not, but it's a road game. Stroman, again, we're looking at larger sample sizes, pretty decent numbers still. So it makes sense to me where it's coming in, but I would not hate anyone for blindly betting Tampa Bay in this spot.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was at in this game. I'm leaning the Rays. I'm probably going to end up staying off just because I don't really trust either team right now. The Cubs are much better at home. I'm assuming I don't know if the wind's blowing out. I'm assuming it's blowing out with the 9.1.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm assuming the wind's blowing out, and Marcus Stroman's a ground ball pitcher. So if he's on, the balls aren't going to fly no matter what. He did get hit hard, but that was in Colorado his last outing. So this is one where I wish Tampa Bay was either minus 40 or plus 110 so I could play on the opposite side, but I think this line's just spot on.
Yeah. Fair enough. Rasmussen hasn't started the season well, but, I think it's just been a little tough for him. Facing the White Sox on the road was not a great way to open the season. Gave up 2 runs to the Orioles, not very pretty. But I still think he kind of gets right in this spot a little bit. I don't really trust the Cubs too much right now. I don't really know why. I'm going to go ahead and take the Rays in the first 5. I got minus 104 at FanDuel. They were just like giving a gorgeous number. I think Stroman could very easily just be off. His numbers have not looked all that impressive to start the year either. I think an over here isn't crazy. I mean, that wind is kind of nuts today. So we'll see how everybody handles it. But I do think the Rays get the series win on this one. They're looking for one. Like they lost both their last 2 series. So this is a big game for them to kind of, get a win on the road, look a little better, a little momentum last night, still like getting that wind out of the way. But they've been on a rough stretch. I think like 3-6 after sweeping the Orioles. So I think Rays to, kind of get some momentum here is my play, at least in the first 5. I think they'll get it done.
Yeah. I think that there's a decent chance this game gets postponed. It's going to rain throughout the game no matter what. They have already announced that they're trying to move the start time up. They've moved it up 1 hour. Just something to think about there. Obviously, if this were a matchup with the Cardinals, Brewers, something like that, this game would have been postponed probably already.
Or if it wasn't interleague, that would make it very hard.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
All right.
Minnesota, Kansas City. Chris Paddock and Daniel Lynch.
Do you trust Lynch, Mike? I know this is your squad. How are you feeling about it?
I don't at all. I like the over in the first 3 innings, over in the first 5 innings in the game. I think that's where the majority of the runs are going to come from here. But I don't like Lynch. I'm definitely using the Minnesota players in daily fantasy tonight. Carlos Correa, Jorge Polanco, like both of those guys quite a bit. you have to be a little careful when you like some of those guys in DFS when they project really well, because again, you're guaranteeing them a team ninth inning at bat, which is huge in fantasy type stuff. So, but yeah, I like Minnesota a little bit here. So I think that even though the number is up to minus 135, or I mean minus 125 in the market, I still have a little bit of an edge, and I'm relatively interested in playing Minnesota now.
Nice. I'm gonna go ahead and just take the first 3 inning over 2.5 at minus 130. It's not. I think you could probably get minus 125 out there. It's not the prettiest number, but I just think there's a big chance. I like the run in the first inning potentially too. Again, we talk about it a lot. We don't really play no run first innings around here because, of course, the first inning is the only inning where you're guaranteed to see the top 6 hitters. And it sometimes it happens a lot. Like pitchers settle in after the first inning. And it's easier because they see the lesser hitters after the first inning. It happens often. So I don't hate the first run coming in the first inning. And I have the total going over 3 in the first 3 innings because I just think that, you're probably going to get through the top of the lineup's going to hit twice in the first 3 innings. Hopefully we get some hits to get some of those chances to get those 3 runs in. I think it happens. So I like that play a lot.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing for me is the Twins are so bad against lefties that scares me off. Daniel Lynch I don't think he's going to be very good, but I don't think the Twins are very good against lefties in general. Obviously, Mike playing the DFS got the DFS righties. That makes sense because it's an individual player, but the lineup in general is not good against lefties. And the Royals bullpen is just so bad. They've been one of the worst in the league this year. Twins bullpen isn't much better, but the Twins bats have been better to start the season. And once they get the lefty out, they should have success. So I'm probably staying away from this.
This is so bad, John. I had to go look at the numbers. The weighted runs created for the Royals are 44. So that means that they're 56% worse than the average team against lefties. That's just so terrible. And surprisingly, who's only one team but better than them is the Giants and then the Dodgers. So it's been tough for some teams against lefties to start the year that maybe you wouldn't consider to be bad against lefties. But some interesting stats there with who's been able to see lefties this season so far.
Yeah. So the Minnesota thing, if you look at the collection of the lineup, it shouldn't be a horrible lineup against left-handed pitching. It has been at times, but whenever I find situations like that, I tend to kind of ignore some of that when you still look at, obviously we're using numbers for the individual players and not the team as a whole, which is why some of those situations come up like that. But with Polanco, Correa, Urshela, Garlic, Sanchez at the top, they should not be horrible against left-handed pitching. Even Sano and Jeffers, they've obviously at least got a little power against lefties, which is, I think, overall a good situation. The wind is not really a big factor. It's blowing in, but it's only, it's going to be a pretty soft wind, at least where I'm projecting. But the air density is great in this game for this time of year. Getting this all the way down to 65, 66 on the air density. The humidity is 90% with those power hitters on that Minnesota side. And then on Kansas City side, at least with Salvador Perez, maybe Carlos Santana, we could see some runs in this game. We could see some home runs here.
Yeah. I mean, Salvi's only hitting 2 home runs in a game at a time, though. So it'd be either 2 or none for him, clearly.
Yeah, I don't understand how the Twins lineup is bad against lefties either. You look at them individually and you're like, okay, each of these guys should have success, but they've consistently just been bad against lefties for whatever reason. So it's weird.
Crazy.
All right, last game. Game here.
What a busy slate we got a treat of an MLB slate today. That's for sure. It's gonna be a fun one.
Huge slate. Logan Gilbert, Dane Dunning, Seattle at home here. Logan Gilbert, I've got him up to minus 139. Market is definitely loving Seattle. I've seen minus 150s out there or more. Can't say I disagree with it. I personally think my number is probably correct in the division game. Minus 140 is still a pretty significant number in Major League Baseball in the division game. So having said that, I would not, you can find plus 140, which is basically where my number is on Texas. I'm not interested in grabbing plus 140 on Texas still. If I was forced to bet it, I would bet on the Seattle side.
Yeah. I am on the Mariners here. I love this. I think as well, minus 150 would probably be my highest. That's where I played it, and that's probably as high as I would go. because, like you said, it is a division game. Anything can happen in division games. But Seattle did win 8 of 10 at home against the Rangers last season. The Rangers are really bad against righties. They're one of the worst teams in the league against righties. And the Rangers have the worst bullpen in the league. So I think this line could be up towards minus 175 easily. So I like the Mariners at home here.
Yeah, you guys basically said it all. Dane Dunning isn't exactly anything you can rely on. Logan Gilbert has looked awesome. What does he have? Like 11 strikeouts in 10 innings against some decent teams. I think he played the White Sox and he pitched.
Yeah,
really well.
he had a really strong outing on the road against the White Sox.
Now he's returning home to a nice pitcher's park against the Texas team that's terrible against righties. For whatever reason, they are dominating lefties. It's really weird. But welcome to this year in the MLB, guys. It's going to be a fun slate. John, man, thank you so much for hanging out, going over everything. It was so much fun hearing your opinions. Can't wait to have you back. We'll be here tomorrow going over everything.
We'll be here tomorrow. John is welcome to join anytime he wants. Absolutely incredible to have you on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate the invite. Glad to be back sometime soon.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.